episode of Conversations, the show where we talk about the things that maybe it would be more helpful for people to talk about at work, and just really different perspectives than what the same old conversations are happening in the workplace. So whether you're working in a corporate workspace or you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of in the industry and hearing these types of things, what we're doing here at this show is different perspectives, mashups. We should do like a show specifically on mashups, mashing up different types of perspectives and experiences into new conversations so that we can explore what might really work for me, what might really work for my business instead of what everybody else says we should do. And today we're talking about two things that I'm very passionate about together as a mashup, which is belonging and branding. So branding, it's a conversation that comes up over and over in marketing specifically, but really when you're looking at business in general, branding's really always part of the conversation. But there's a really cool piece of effective branding that is tied into belonging, which is what we are going to explore here today. And for those of you who are new to the show, I'm not here just to give you my perspectives on these things. It's always a conversation. And we're going to learn a little bit more about Naomi in a moment, but this is a conversation for all of us. And so if you are here watching live, please make sure to get in the comments, share your comments, share your experience, share your perspectives, ask your questions, all of the things. The more people, the more people are participating in this conversation, the more we all get to take away. So you are all contributors as well, and I welcome you to make your contribution to the show. All right, before we jump into it, let's learn a little bit more about Naomi. So Naomi, let us know, who are you, my friend, and why are branding and belonging two things that are so interesting to you?
Well, hello, Tracy, my fellow Canadian. How are you? So my name is Naomi Sebu, and I'm so honored and so happy to be invited to be on Tracy's show. Thank you so much for having me. It's interesting, how do you describe yourself? I was thinking about that during COVID, and I was like, how do I wrap myself up in one paragraph? So I'm a creative brand executive that's been in the industry for more than 20 plus years. And I specialize in everything that has to do with a brand from beginning to end in terms of identifying it, creating it, building it, merchandising it, selling it, getting it out there to the market. So it's basically a one-stop shop. And my career has given me all those abilities and capabilities to do all that I needed to do and then some.
Awesome. And I just one of the things that so resonated with me, Naomi, was when you shared with me when we first met about your work with Serena Williams
Yes.
and her brand. So hopefully we get some shares from that today. I'm sure we will. Because these are some of the things that are so interesting to me when it comes to marketing, because there's so many pieces of marketing, right? We throw around words: marketing, branding, advertising, graphic design, right? Like there's so many pieces. And at the end of the day, I know for me, the brands where I'm just like, yeah, I'm such a champion of those brands are because there's like a human connection that exists there. So from your experience, tell us a little bit, Naomi, about like the importance of that connection piece, the importance of the humanness before we get too overwhelmed with doing tasks.
Right. And it's so true. You hit it on the head of a nail. It's, marketing and branding and merchandising and graphics, it is all under one big umbrella. And that being said, it's like the more that you are advancing in the field, whatever field that is, you're wearing all of these hats. You have to be a master in understanding one from the other. You can't do one and not do the other, because they both work simultaneously. It is crazy that they do bucket it that way over the years, but the thing is, to be branding and marketing, it's an all-in-one thing. You have to understand it. And when it comes from a customization feel and making that customer feel included in the brand, it's all about the messaging and the effect. Number one, what does it look like? Number two, what is the brand motto? Number three, how are you engaging with the consumer when it comes at all different levels? now more so than ever, there's so many platforms. There is Twitter, there is YouTube, there is Instagram, there is Facebook, there is Pinterest. There's all of these aspects, but then also not alone too, your own website. It's like, how are customers interacting with you there? You always want to make sure you're giving that customer a very positive feel, a positive effect. If it is how they're feeling in the clothes, share your story with us. Tell us. We want to hear, how can we improve? Reach out to those consumers by email blasts. How do you feel about it? What do you want? What do you feel is missing? Engaging in them in that way, they're going to put more of an effort. They're going to put in more communication with you, and you're also going to build that returning customer. So you always want to make sure that you're doing and covering all those different touch points, and especially if you have a store, a freestanding store, how is that customer feeling when they're coming in? You're inviting them in, you're greeting them, you're helping them through the decision process of what they're looking at and shopping. Do they leave satisfied? Is there any issues? Do you quickly resolve it? All of those things come in play.
Well, and I think I love complexity, right? Because
Oh yeah.
I think we do a disservice to these types of things by making things that are complex too simple, right?
Right.
Because what I'm imagining is like two different stores that sell shoes, right?
Yep.
There's lots of
Mhm.
different stores that sell
Mhm.
shoes.
Right.
There are stores I would want to go to, like
Mhm.
because when I am there, they're like, they recognize that like every foot is different and this is
Right.
the type of shoe that fits this type of foot, and
Right.
there's people who want to sell shoes.
Yep.
Right, how many shoes can we sell? And that is part of the brand, right? How we
Right.
show up and have that relationship
Mhm.
with people. Are we here just to have a
Right.
transactional
Right.
relationship with people? Are we here to have a unique, I see you, I'm here to help you type of experience?
Right.
And one of the things I'd like to talk about here, because now this is making me think of like the digital realm, right? Now people
Mhm.
have like digital storefronts, and your website is a digital storefront, or can
Right.
be anyway. And I think there's a gap between what people have experienced historically as
Mhm.
this is the type of effort I'm putting into my in-store or in-office experience
Right.
versus creating that experience on digital. So tell me about some of the things that you've mentioned already, and
Mhm.
like how we need to be thinking about those in our online interactions to make sure that we're maintaining that brand experience and not breaking that brand experience.
Right. Well, the thing is, once upon a time, there was a lot of brick and mortar stores. There was less e-commerce. With COVID happening, a lot of brands had to flip a switch very quickly in order to maintain, survive, reach their consumer, because no one was physically going into the store shopping. So
Yeah.
that was a huge and a big eye opener. I always say with anything I do is that you need to diversify your egg basket. Make sure the eggs are all different. You also have to make sure that the eggs are all communicating with a beautiful fine thread, managing the same messaging all the way through. So from a digital standpoint, the more information you provide the consumer, the more that the images are very detailed oriented. There's some brands out there that do a 360 view. As a consumer, listen, personally myself, I'm old school, call it. I like to touch, feel, and see everything, and that's how I like to shop. But guess what? There are some times that I can't do that. So getting all of these additional things coming through, it's amazing. There are some brands and sites that are out there right now that also have, a fit app, where it's like you plug in your information or you take a photograph of yourself, they download that information and they advise you what is your best fit and size, so that A, it's lowering the return rate, but B, it's also giving that customer the special feeling of like, oh my God, I picked the right garment, I picked the right size, it fits beautifully, nothing to worry about. I will come back to them again because I was really satisfied with the fit. And a fit has something a lot of importance to do with it. So it's all about the imagery, it's all about the messaging, and it's all about those additional things that you're thinking about, the 360 view, the fit app that would be happening there. And it's also making every site has a different look. But how do you engage that customer even more? Is it with some videos? Is it with some lives? Is it with, getting them to interact with you on the site somehow in some way? So it's all of these different things that you could think about. And e-commerce is not going away. It's going to grow even more. The biggest platforms out there is Amazon. What are they doing? They're constantly improving, they're constantly bringing in new tech, and also the efficiency of shipping. You know, if a customer wants something right away, and all of a sudden you say your shipping dates are like 7 to 14 days or whatever ridiculous rate that is, it's like then you've already lost the customer. So you always want to make sure that you're giving the customer all the options in order for them to customize their own experience.
And see, like, even in just that answer, you touched on like so many complexities here. So, like, one, I want to celebrate the example that you shared about the Fit app, right? Because this is, it might not seem like a brand related thing, right? It might seem like a technology related thing, but you would choose to implement that as on behalf of the business because what matters to you is stuff fits your customers, right? And the brand at the end of the day, like at really the base level is like what matters the most to you as a business, right? Because there's, if you don't care about how something fits your customers, or you haven't even like cared enough to like think about that in the production process, then why would you put it on your website, right? That doesn't, it's not in alignment with the brand experience. So these are the things too, where in a world of like so much technology and there's an app for this and an app for that and an app, like what is actually meaningful to you, to your customers, based on how you want to have a relationship with them, and how can you implement those things instead of being, because I think there's a lot of businesses that are just overwhelmed by the tech, right? And I could do this, and I could do this, and I could have that. And should I develop my own app, or should I have someone else develop my app? Or like, there's too many options. And so when you bring it back,
it's overwhelming. Yeah, it's very true. The thing is, there's like, to bring you back to the Fit app, consider that a trifecta. Number one, it's hitting the emotional aspect. Number two, it's giving you the data and information from a business standpoint. Number three, it's lowering the carbon footprint, because if they're getting the right size, then there's no returns going back and forth. So that's good for the environment, right? And number four, it is also a way for you to pull the information from it, to get the analytics, get that information, to get that customer to feel that you really care about each and every person, and getting and providing them the best information, the best output. Instead of coming in the store physically, that is the salesperson. That Fit app is like your salesperson. Here is your size options.
Right. And then like, how do you create that consistency, right? How do you create that consistency and experience between the Fit app and the salesperson, right? Because will the experiences be identical? Of course not. There's one is a person and one is not a person. But how is it consistent so that people get the same kind of feeling, that they feel you care the same amount about their experience?
The thing is, it's called communication. You know, you're going to have your variety of departments. You're going to have a sales department. You're going to have a design department. You're going to have your retail store associates. You're going to have your e-commerce team. Every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, you have to share the information with those teams. So if it is a point person that leads that discussion, and number one, there's always something called weekly meetings, you know, daily meetings, depends on how important that particular item is. You have to communicate that information. And also number two, you have to listen to the customer. Yes, there are small brands that there's a lot of technology out there. Technology is part of the mix now. It's another ingredient in the mixing bowl. It has to be there, but everyone can start at their own pace. Listen to what your customers want, and that will lead you to a better success. You know, if the customers are asking you things like this, pay attention to it. How often is this being asked? Is it being asked more than 80% of the time? Well, then you guys as a brand need to pay attention to it.
Yeah, and this is the thing where it's like interesting to me too, because my background is marketing research, right? So I've seen a lot of terrible marketing research, more terrible marketing research than good marketing research, to be fair.
Yes.
The thing that's really interesting is I think everyone gets this concept of listen to your customers, right? So we send out a survey and we get this information back, but we didn't actually ask them questions about anything that we care about, right? We got a marketing survey off the internet, and then we send it to all our people, and then we get all this stuff back, and we're like, actually, we don't really care about any of this, except the problem you've created is your people, like your customers, who have been surveyed on that
Right.
now think that that's important to you.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing to me about brand experiences, right? That every single time you touch a customer,
Right.
it contributes or detracts from your brand experience.
Mhm.
So are you building a holistic thing, or
Right.
are you slowly chipping away at what started out being a relationship between two parties?
Mhm.
And one of the things I want to come back to, because this has come up now a couple of times, is this communication piece, right?
Right.
And communication, I think communication and belonging are intricately connected, because when we talk about the ability to communicate
Right.
in a way where you're actually revealing all of the necessary information, you need to feel safe. You need to
Mhm.
feel like you're part of a team. You need to feel
Right.
some sense of ownership in, like, I actually care
Yeah.
about this. It reminds me of, I was sitting on a board and I was the person that had marketing experience, right? No one else had any marketing experience. And the board was assessing whether or not the organization should hire a social media consultant.
Right, which
And
is in big demand right now, as we all
right.
know. Yes.
And not cheap, right? Like
Not
to have
cheap
somebody
at all.
provide you with
Yep.
a legitimate plan you can execute, it's not cheap.
Right.
And it wasn't. It
Right.
wasn't a small investment we were looking at. And one of the times I was sitting there and I was like, I was pretty new on the board, so you didn't know everybody too well, but I got to the point where I'm like, I have to say something, right? Because
Right.
what I knew was that they were going to pay a whole bunch of money to a social media consultant and then not do anything with the
Right.
information, because
Right.
everybody else on the board was totally uncomfortable with the
Right.
concept of social media. And so I was
Because people don't understand it. Like, when you don't
right.
know it, that you get resistance. Yeah.
Right. And so the paying a consultant to consult for you and then not doing anything with it,
Mhm.
I feel like not a good use of the membership's money, right?
Right.
Something you could
Exactly.
do something else. But
Right.
there's, I've had equal, so in that scenario, I was like, I have to say something, and I recommended against it, and I was like, this is why, this is my knowledge, this is, and we ended up not doing it and spending the money elsewhere.
Right.
But how many times have knowledgeable people sat in a boardroom and had the information that they need, right?
Yes.
And didn't share it because they didn't feel safe, or that maybe they just didn't feel confident, or
Right.
they didn't feel something. They didn't feel enough of a connection or a safety, because belonging, I think, has a lot to do with like a safety in
Sure.
being wrong, right?
Mhm.
So like if I share
Yes.
something and I actually end up being wrong, I still belong here because I'm
Right.
human, and at some point all humans are going to be wrong. But tell me of your experience for this, Naomi. Like, what has it felt like for you when we actually get these teams of people together
Mhm.
in belonging, doing things, whether that's marketing, but at the end of the day, what they're doing is
Right.
creating an experience, right? Creating an experience for people.
Mhm.
What's the difference in the spaces where we come together and belonging, in the spaces where we just all are employed?
It's like putting people in a sandbox and telling them to play. Listen, sometimes it's very easy, it's seamless, it's organic, and that's the best feeling, because you know it's a win-win situation. There are times that I've been in situations where I've been asked to come on board to consult, and I've gotten complete resistance from people that had been in those certain positions for more than 25 years. So they have their mindset a one way. This is the only way they know how. And I've been brought on board to shake it up, refresh it, rebrand it, get it going, activate it, energize it, make it a wow factor. And it is hard. It is extremely stressful, because that's of the positions where you're in, where it's like, okay, if I'm going to say something, I will say it, but then how much is that going to be valued and taken and listened to and then addressed, or modified or changed? Listen, anytime there's a new mix up or a new team involved or a new person coming in, there is like that dating stage. It's like 3 months of building that relationship. It doesn't happen overnight. And whenever that happens, like I first come in there, I assess everything, I take a look at everything. I just don't go in there guns a-blazing. That's not how I operate. Number one is like, I want to build those relationships. I want to build the trust factor. And it's a trust factor is so needed. The other aspect too is like, how do you present yourself? How do you speak? Do you speak with confidence? Do you speak with, assurances and telling them based, on market research or based on analyzing the market? It's like when you're trying to convince people, you can't just say it. You have to show with the reasons why. What are the reasons why? What is the supporting material? You do that a number of times, they're going to be like, okay, when Naomi says something or Tracy says something, I get it. She's coming in with reasons why, because she has done her due diligence. So it is hard. It is, sometimes there's people that are in a company that they wanted the position that you've been given, or the promotion that you've been given. It happens, especially in our industry, right? There are people that are only after their end game. They're not a team player. Those will quickly show itself. So then you have to modify how you're communicating with them, how you're working with them. And listen, not one person's the same. Every scenario is different, and it's challenging. It's extremely stressful at times, but it's challenging. But in the end, you know what you need to do as your initiatives. And if you're brought on to do something, listen, that's the game plan, and that's what I'm sticking to it. And I will ask for people to support me that I know I can build and trust with and get them on board, so that, let's say it's 6 people on a team, 5 are good to go, 1 isn't. Well, guess what? That person's going to have to go with the rest of the 5, because everyone's going in one direction. And if not, what's going to happen.
So I've been in experiences, I've been in working groups and teams where there is like just that flow, right? And it's almost like unspoken, right?
Yep.
Like everybody's got each other's back, people pick up slack, and like people are like reassigning tasks. They're like, well, you're better at this and I'm better at this. And there's times where just that doesn't happen at all. And so from your experience, how does the connection in the internal team impact the external brand?
You can see it. When something is moving and grooving and jiving, it is like unstoppable, right? You could feel the energy, and energy is a big thing with me. You feel the vibe, you feel the energy. Everyone's in a good mood. Everyone's rolling up their sleeves. You feel the camaraderie. Usually I like music in the background wherever I am. I like to hear that. Music's a big thing, right? It's great therapeutic. It's a great mood booster. It's great creatively. And you just feel it, and it just organically spreads. It spreads. People feel it. People know it. People also get energized by that because they see what's happening. And it's amazing, incredible to see. When it's not there, it feels stifling. It feels like there is no oxygen in the air. It's more stressful. And it's just like it feels like if you're walking on eggshells at sometimes. It's like it's not there. And it's like you gotta try to fix it, either from the top down, which is a lot of times, or from the bottom up. But it's, again, sometimes you get resistance as it goes to the up. So it's like a seesaw. It's hard to balance it, but you have to do your best to balance it, because the more that people are in tune with each other, it's incredible.
Yeah. It's just like, I remember being on a team, and there was just one person who was just like it's like they'd go around and create problems between other teammates, and you're like, what? Why?
And then sometimes those people, it's like you kind of give them the incentive and the initiative and conversations with them of, how can I communicate with you better? What can we do? What works for you? Let me know. Kind of like, play that aspect of it, like being the therapist, being the mom, and being the boss. And it is hard, but sometimes there gets to a point where those kind of bad eggs, you just have to let them go. It happens. And guess what? As soon as that person's gone, bam, the department it's like.
That's what I was going to say. As soon as that, and that person actually decided to leave, like they didn't get fired, they decided to leave. And then as soon as they did, I was like, oh, there's like this beautiful peace.
Yeah. It's like the flowers are sprung, the birds are chirping, the skies are blue. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I always think that it's not, I don't know why I feel like I always say there's no like good and bad people
Right.
There's like people who work together and there's people
Right.
who don't work together.
Right.
It's the same
Right.
with relationships, right? Like there's people who work together, there's people who just don't. That
Exactly.
doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. It just means that we're not good together.
Right.
And in the workspace, this is actually something to me that always really comes back to the concept of brand as well, because when you have not only the employees that are aligned with who you are as a business, but also the clients, the customers,
Yes.
who the partners, the vendors, whoever else touches your business who are aligned with the business, this
Yep.
also extremely impacts the flow. Because I had a boss once who was like, we don't take bad money. Meaning that like we're not just going to take money to do a
Right.
thing that we don't believe in.
Right.
And we had some clients that some would argue were not good money, because
Right.
what the energy that they brought in from a client perspective wasn't like, we're in this as a team. It's like, you are my servant and you are here to serve me and
Right.
get it done. Right.
Right.
And then being the leader in that scenario, for me, it was really difficult, because I was like, well, now you're saying yes to this business. Like my CEO is saying yes to the business. So we accept it from a client services perspective.
Mhm.
Now my team is the one who has to take the brunt of that every
Right.
day. And I have to
Right.
be the one who tries to be the buffer between
Yes.
that energy and the energy that
Was
we
within.
want to
Yeah.
create as a team.
Right.
And that, like, that's hard work. So the more that you can create that alignment at all of the touch points,
Right.
I think there's, again, a beautiful way for your employees, employees to live your brand, for
Right.
your clients to be raving fans of your
Right.
brand, right?
Right.
For partners to be excited to want to talk about you, to even like past customers who are no longer customers for whatever reason are just like super excited to say like, yeah, I worked with that
Right.
company or that organization, because you had that level of connection. So let me ask you this, Naomi, in terms of like being intentional,
Mhm.
where, let's go back to like the topic today, belonging and branding. How can we be a little more intentional in bringing those two things together from a foundational perspective?
The key word is communication. Again, you know,
Have you
in a
guys heard it enough today? It's about communication.
no, it's listen, when you're in a and you said it's spot on. When you're in a company and there's that energy and there's that momentum and there's the incredible stuff that's coming out of it and the relationships are blossoming and they're loving it. They love to come see you. They love to come spend time with you. It is such a beautiful ego booster, confident booster. It just makes you just feel good from the inside out. Like every single minuscule part of your body feels amazing about it, and it's just like you have to keep thinking that way. It's like, you have to feel like whenever you're in a company or if it's your own brand or if it's you're working for clients, you need to feel good about where you're putting yourself. And it's funny, I saw something on Instagram one time and I saved it, which I'll post at another time about a mood where someone says, listen, if you have a flower in a particular environment and it's dying, why is it dying? Is it because of the flower or is it because of the environment that it's in? Right?
Mhm.
That's kind of just very simple eye opener. It's like it's all about building that positive environment. However, wherever you could do it, you have to. Mindset is important. Like all the aspects of emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, all of that is super important. It all needs to be aligned. And it shows in itself. Belonging is important. Everyone wants to belong somewhere. I want to belong somewhere. You want to belong somewhere. But we want to belong in these places for the right reasons. I don't wanna sell my soul, to, like, something that I don't believe in, that's very dark and dreary and it's heavy, because your body's gonna be affected by it. I wanna be around positive environments, and what I do with my consulting is that I make sure that they hit the pillars for me, that it is, entrepreneurial mindset, it's about success, it's about belonging, it's about empowerment, it's about sustainability, inclusivity. It has to feel that way, and if I don't get that vibe, I'm like, after working in the industry for that long, I'm like, no amount of money is going to make me want to do it. So, again, it just all has to line up. It's like putting that recipe together and making it cook and making it, look beautiful in the end. And it's all mindset, and it's all about communication and standing for yourself and what you believe in. And sometimes it may be hard in the beginning, but just if it's meant to succeed, it's going to, by doing all those things.
What I'm hearing here is this like beautiful opportunity for personal brands and corporate brands to be aligned.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in order to do that, there's a certain amount of clarity that individual people need to have. And this is something I've become really passionate about lately, actually, as well, is that I feel like as employees,
Right.
often we say this is the business's problem, right? It's the business's job to create belonging for us. So they should go out and they should hire consultants and they should do the things. Leadership should do it. And we will wait. We will wait for it to be served.
Right. Right.
But the problem with that is belonging, communication, all of these things are a two-way street.
Yes.
Which means if I'm not actively participating from an employee standpoint, it doesn't actually matter how much the organization cares about it, spends on it, plans, it builds it into plans. If I don't accept it,
right.
If I say no, then none of that exists. And so if there's a lot more ongoing, and I think the pandemic was another influx of people looking at, like, what do I really want?
Right.
What is important to me? What type of people do I want to be around?
Right.
And these things change throughout your career, right? Like the type of environment and the type of people I wanted to be around when I was young and single is different than I want as a mom trying to take care of a 4-year-old at home, right? Like, and giving ourselves the permission to go on that journey, but also to say, like, okay, these are the things that are important to me today. And I, as a person, am not going to trade those things away, right? You use the phrase, sell your soul, right? And I think to some degree we've been taught, not by somebody sitting there saying, like, okay, so what's true about life is you're going to have to sell your soul, so you might as well just get okay with it. No one said that to us, but somehow along the line, this is what we interpret. And therefore we start to trade. We do it in relationships. We do it at work, right? Like, we do it how we show up on social media, right? Like, people trade and they're like, oh, I won't say anything about that because it might hurt someone else's feelings, or it might this, or it might that. And we start to slowly forget who we are. And in order for us to find alignment, in order for businesses to empower their employees in a way that move the business forward, in order for employees to find places that they don't hate working at every day, these are the things, firstly, you need to know, but then secondly, you have to champion for yourself.
Like, for example, look at Goop, look at Honest. Those are brands that have all organically grown. They're from women entrepreneurs. There are women that understand and know themselves. And again, as you said, Tracy, again, perfect. It's, your personal branding and it's the company's branding. And there is a merge. There is always a marriage between those two. And as you get more experience in the industry and you understand what your strengths are and what you could bring to the table, the more you are more defined in your own personal shape. You're not a round peg. You're not a square peg. You're your own unique shape. And that being said, it's a marriage between the two. And again, communication and showing up and being your true authentic self. When you're in places and situations, and I have been, I'm sure you have, where you're not your authentic self, you feel like crap. Seriously, you feel like crap. It's like, what did I just do? I hopped on a plane for this. Are you kidding me? It's like you just want to go, ugh. But it's all about that, and it's all about the semblance of those two things. Yes, for sure.
And these are things to learn too, because if you're listening today and you're like, okay, I just need to bring more of my authentic self to work so I can find this alignment.
Right.
It would be great if it was just a light switch that we can turn on. The problem is, for most of us, for years, who we are has been overridden by who we should be.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we forget who we are because we're so focused on what we should be.
Right.
And so there's a process of
Mhm.
peeling away what are the should be's. This is equally relevant for businesses, by the way, because as businesses start small, you've got a founder and they're really passionate about a thing that they're doing, and then they start to build and they've got to grow, and sometimes you're growing faster than you're
Right.
ready to do that, and all of a sudden you've got all these super corporate policies in place, and it doesn't reflect who your business is or what it was created to do at all. And
Right.
that's because of shoulds, not because everybody said you should do that, right?
Right.
And so it's this process of taking away what are these things that I'm doing that
Mhm.
someone else told me I should do,
Right.
and what are and very minimally knowing this isn't something I decided, this is something someone else decided and told
Right.
me.
Right.
So where am I? What is all of this other stuff?
Right.
And let's slowly take it away, or at least slowly explore
Yeah.
how do I actually feel about that? Because that is the practice of being authentic, right?
Right.
Is exploring. Do I believe that?
Right.
Is that
Right.
something I would do? And
Right.
sometimes you don't know until you do it.
It's true. What I've done before in the past too, and trying to blend the personal with the professional, is like when you're trying to get to know people or understand people or let them see a different side of you, let's go out. Let's grab a coffee. Let's go grab lunch as a team. Let's go do an outing. There's an art exhibit that I think everyone would be interested in that would be great for, just thinking about branding and the evolution of it and being for your creative outlook. Let's go to that. You know what I mean? It helps, getting them out of that environment that they're all used to and getting them out to some other place that's a neutral ground. And I think that's super helpful. And it builds a little bit of camaraderie and, company events, however big or small the company is. You see Goop always doing these away events with their teams. It is amazing. It's recharging them. It's energizing them. It's getting them to feel how we want the brand to feel both internally and externally.
That is an amazing example, because this is about putting your money where your mouth is based on what your brand believes, right?
Yep.
So it's funny because I feel like I used this analogy just earlier today of like companies treating people like batteries. And I
Mhm.
come into work and I plug in and you slowly drain me all day, and then you send me
Right.
home, and then I recharge at home, and then you just drain me all day again. But
Right.
in the Goop example, right? Like this is a team that cares about having an energized team, about like creating that kind of feeling, that kind of space for
Yep.
people. And when you do that, when you
Mhm.
invest in that, there is no way that doesn't have an impact on how those people are treating clients,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like,
Bingo. Yeah.
yeah, I love how you talked earlier about the energy, Naomi, and these are the types of concepts too that I love to see in these conversations, because when we're talking about like strategic business, a
Right.
lot of times those types of things aren't part of the conversation.
Right.
But one of the things I often say, and I have a lot of clients who are like solopreneurs, right? But
Right.
they're like, well, I need to do this, I need to show up, and I need to do these things. And you're like, well, what's the difference
Mhm.
between let's just look at sending an email as an example, right? Pretty much
Right.
everybody anybody who works probably sends an email almost every day, right?
Yes.
Or most days. And so sometimes when you're sending an email, you're in like excited energy. And you're like,
Mhm.
ooh, this sounds really exciting. I'm really curious about this. Tell me more. And
Right.
sometimes you're like, I don't know about you, but I get all those emails that are like, I think I can help your business do this, even though I don't know anything about you. And I'm like, I just have absolutely no interest in even responding to this.
Correct.
um,
Correct.
and at some point, I need to tell you to leave me alone. But
Right.
those are like, the activity is writing an email,
Mhm.
but the energy is completely different. And so if we completely ignore the concept of the energy in which people are doing things, and we only look at what people are doing, we're being really short-sighted on that. Quite honestly, both of the topics we're talking about
Right.
today, branding
Exactly.
and belonging.
Right. Totally. 1000%. It's like I feel like every year we all try to do a reset, for the beginning of the new year. For me, my personal journey, like back in 2014, I was so stressed. I was tired. I was exhausted. I felt like I needed something to ground me. I felt like I was just flying everywhere. And it was just internally, I wanted to be grounded. So I leaned into meditating, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's a reset every day, meditating, getting your thoughts out, your affirmations, how you're feeling, what you need to improve. And you could feel these energies in your body. And I feel at the same time, it's like I write down every end of the year, what my intentions are for the next year. I read it out loud. I understand it, I accept it, I honor it, and then I burn it at midnight and every New Year's. So I release it to the universe. And in that particular layout, I talk about everything I want for. I talk about personal growth. I talk about professional growth. I talk about what I want to see myself doing overall. What are my plans for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, breaking it down that way. So I'm really, really putting the effort in there. I almost feel the companies or brands need to do the same thing. And
Well,
then
and
see
this
how
is
they
the
align.
interesting thing, because when you have that like you-ness in it, right? Like, this is mine. That's the ownership piece, right?
Right.
And so many times, and I've been responsible for this before too, as a manager, right? Like, you go to the management offsite and the managers decide all of the things for the
Right.
entire quarter. And then we inform the team
Yes.
what we decided.
Right.
There's no us in that, right? Like, in your example, this is you. This is what I've decided. I have put me into this,
Right.
and now I am releasing it to the universe so that I can accomplish it. And
Right.
this is how humans experience the world. And there's an opportunity to do that as a unit, as a business.
Right.
And I think that it would be so amazing. And there might be people out there thinking like, that is whack. And
Well, this is how me personally, over 25 years of experience in the industry. So if I've come to my balance and my happiness and my joy and my boundaries, everything's different for everyone else. But sharing about and caring about, spreading that information of what has helped me. I know it's helped many other people in my lives. It's my women tribe circle of incredible women executives. Everyone leans into it. So,
and this is the point too, right? Like, I equally celebrate, because I'm in alignment with this. Like, I would love to do that as like a department. Or I might actually do it with my community, right? And just say like, we're going to do this activity because this sounds amazing.
Yep.
You might think that you would never do that. And there's also other people out there who think they would never do that. Those are your people. Right? And when you can find, like, Andrew had a really great comment here related to the Goop example, but they've created a sense of community.
Yeah, well said.
These are people who like being together,
right?
Who want to participate in community, who want to go somewhere together, and they have that connection. They have that two-way street.
Yeah, they want to grow together. They're championing each other. They're supporting each other. And when you have those kind of people, you guard them with your life. They're amazing. They are your cheerleaders. For the people that have negative energy, negative vibes, always having something negative to say, their backup is always against the wall, a chip on their shoulder. You don't want to. And as you know more about you and how you feel and how in tune you are with yourself, those things come very quickly to who you're surrounding yourself with. Am I succeeding in this environment like that plant that I told you about? Or am I going to succeed better with water and sun and air? You'll see the difference very quickly.
And I think too, there's an important piece here about accepting that you deserve that, right? Like, if we all thought of ourselves as flower,
yes.
When I feel like I deserve water, because I do. I feel like I do. I feel like everyone does. But not all plants need the same amount of water. Not all plants need the same amount of sunlight. And how can you, one of the things I always think about too is, like, when you see those gardens and there's just like so many different colors and the different shapes of leaves and all of these things. And we look at those types of things in nature and we think it's beautiful. And a team, in essence, isn't different than that. It's not
Yeah.
about putting all
When I see
white
something like that,
daffodils in this place, right?
when I
It's
see
about,
when I see something like
yeah,
that, I'm always like this, how did they do it? And I'm going into my head like, how did they do it? I need to I'm thinking about like all the processes and the steps and everything. And I'm trying to figure it out.
yeah. Well, and I remember it was Lake Annecy, I think, on the border of France and Switzerland. And
Okay.
it's the only place in the world. Yeah, I'm going to screw it up because I don't really know anything about plants, but there's like tropical plants. So like palm trees can grow there,
Really?
but also like carnivorous trees
Oh
can
my
go
God.
there. And it's one of the
Amazing.
only places, if not the only place in the world where those two,
Church.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
you're like, how is that possible? But
Right.
it is possible.
Right.
And I mean, in nature, it's not like we intentionally created this space so these plants can live here together. But
Right.
in business, if
Right.
we take that and we say, like, well, that's not possible.
Right.
Well, it is possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything's possible.
First, we have to believe it's possible. And if we believe it's possible, how can we? How can we make that happen? How can we do that with our team? And maybe it is. I really want to find a company who does this lighting of the ceremony and like releasing it to the universe at the beginning of every year. This sounds amazing.
There are, yes.
And I'm going to start doing it now too. But like when you can find your people like that and you can create, I mean, really just create. You can create something. You can create what you want. You don't have to follow the rules of anybody else because they don't have the same people you have. They don't have the same why you have. They don't have the same technological combination that you have, right? You have something unique. And when you embrace that and you find peeps who want to go on that journey with you, then just boom.
You're attracting the right people. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't help it. It's like you're creating this essence around yourself and you're attracting those right people, places, and things. And when things don't serve you, the universe takes it away. And I'm like 1000% believer in all that because it's happened a gazillion times with me.
So true. And I love what Andrew is saying here too, that it's important to believe that you deserve to be around a positive community. Because if we don't, then we won't look for it, right?
Right.
I call it the Dodge Caravan phenomenon, which is based on my experience driving down Highway 2 in Alberta, which is a very long straight road between Calgary and Edmonton, and saying, I don't know why I was thinking this. I think random stuff. But why, like, they still say the Dodge Caravan is the #1 selling van, but I never see any Dodge Caravans. I'm going to count how many Dodge Caravans I see. And in like 5 minutes, I counted like 37. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're right. And the point is that when I wasn't looking for Dodge Caravans, I couldn't see Dodge Caravans. And as soon as I was looking for Dodge Caravans, I could see lots of Dodge Caravans. And so when we're looking for, when we don't think we deserve a positive community, we can't possibly go out and look for it. Equally on the business side, we can't create it, right? If we think business isn't about a community of people, one, you're whack for participating in business. But two, like you can't find it, you won't create it. If you don't believe it's possible, you can't even have an intention of creating it for people. And so we have to, again, this is why I love this show, right? It's just about like broadening our minds and thinking like, well, what if a positive community was available at my place of work?
Right.
And it is, right? Naomi's sitting here, I'm sitting here saying we have seen that. We have also seen not that. But it is possible. It is available. And although not if you aren't looking for it. And well, first, if you don't believe it exists. And two, if you're not looking for it.
And the other thing I want to say too is that when you're in a place, in a situation that you're not feeling your best self, it's like you then start to think to yourself, okay, is this meant to change now? Is it meant to be like, this is just a stepping stone to what I'm supposed to be doing next? That's how I thought about things. You know, there are people, places, and things and jobs and opportunities that I've had where I was like, I'm not growing anymore. I'm at I can't do anything else anymore. To me, it's like it's hitting the automatic mode button, and it's like I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm not being fulfilled anymore. I was like, okay, time for me to. As soon as I started thinking that, immediately I was starting to get phone calls from people hearing about me, wanting to meet, and I was just like, wow. So yeah.
Yeah. Mindset and the power of the universe. We should do an episode on that at some point.
Whenever you're ready, you just tell me. I'll come.
This sounds like a panel conversation with a whole bunch of different.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna make a note. Okay. Well, we talked about a lot of different things today, Naomi. But in a wrapping up, although I can maybe guess the one word that you would use, but when we're talking about branding and belonging, what are the things that people need to make sure are part of the conversation?
Believe in yourself, believe in your abilities and your talents and your passion. Communicating that, exploring it will be nothing but exponential growth for yourself.
Oh, boom. I would have guessed you were going to talk about communication, but that's better. Well, communication also important, but I think this is a thing too, because even when we think about, like, at the end of the day, businesses are run by people. A CEO is a person. Right. Your manager is a person. The person who scrubs the floor is a person, right? And when all of those people have that kind of belief in themselves and they make it part of their mission to find other people who see that value in them, and then get together and like take businesses or societal movements or whatever it might be, that's what leads it together. And it takes each and every one of us to show up and decide that, I'm worth doing that.
Like if each person went in with a mindset each and every day, it's going to be a great day. Whoever I can help, I will help. Whoever needs the support, I'll do that. Giving positive feedback and reinforcement, giving positive compliments, it changes the energy. It takes away someone's defense mechanisms and be like, okay, I can open myself up a little bit more, be a little bit more expressive. Doing those little things will definitely for sure help.
And when you're surrounded by a community of people who are supporting you in doing that, that is also very helpful. I know, Naomi, you have a community that you participate in. I have your Business Peeps community. There are many communities that are available for different types of people doing different types of things. And this is the power in community, is being able to, I don't know if everybody saw my LinkedIn post from earlier this week, but I just had a bad day. I had a bad day Wednesday. Everybody has a bad day. Yeah. Everybody has a bad day, right? And it was like almost to the degree of shocking to me how like before I even posted that, it's really great to get support once you announce those kinds of things to people. But there were so many people who it's like they could feel, they could feel my energy was off, and they cared that my energy was off. And some of these people I have not met except for on LinkedIn, but these are your people. And when you have a community of those people, even if it is just your connections on LinkedIn, that makes a huge difference in your confidence and your ability to show up that way.
But again, it's standing in your truth. Standing in your truth. You know, that's what it is. And it's like being honest. And again, there's nothing like, there's no one's perfect. It's about being real. Every day it's a different story. Every day it's a different struggle. It's a different challenge. Everyone doesn't see what you and I have gone through in our journey. Let me tell you, it's been a roller coaster ride. I buckled my seatbelt. It's been crazy, but I had to go through that to get me to where I was going. And I know that. I know everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And if I were to do it again, I would do it again just the same way. But I would think of myself more about myself earlier in my career than I do now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is, it's part of all of our journeys, right? We all get to that point in time where we finally decided we're worth something in this,
and
in this whole universe.
And they will notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Naomi, thank you so much for joining me in this lovely conversation today. Where is the best place for people to find you if they are interested in connecting further or learning more about what you do for all of the branding goodness?
I love being on Instagram. That's what I love. That's my number one platform that I like to communicate on with my daily, mottos and affirmations and encouragement messages and all of that stuff. So my Instagram is Naomi Sebu at Naomi Sebu. And that's you can easily find me there. Also, would love to hear from anyone. Again, thank you for having me, Tracy, and thank you for anyone that was joining us during this live. I really, truly appreciate it. I hope what we've talked about leaves you in a good mind frame on a beautiful Friday and takes you forward on your journey. So thank you very much.
Oh, so wonderful. Thank you for joining me. Thank you,
Thank you.
Andrew and Paul, for getting in the chat, and for everyone else who was here today. And I'm sure Naomi as well, would still love to hear if there was anything that you've experienced that you didn't get to share during the show today. Reach out to us, connect with
Yes.
us. Branding is our jam. And specifically, you heard it come up over and over again today, right? How people are participants in the brand experience, in the branding process. So come and chat. We would love to chat. Thank you, everyone. And until next time, permission to do you. Have a great Friday, everyone.